Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome to this evening's Meet the Maker at the Goldsmiths Centre. It's lovely to be seeing lots of you joining us again to meet gold members and tenants at the centre. We have such a wealth of fantastic makers who are based here and work here, and are really enjoying introducing you to them. Without further ado, I am going to welcome warmly Rachael Taylor of the Jewellery Cut, who is hosting this evening's. Over to you, Rachael. Thank you.
As Charlotte said, my name is Rachael Taylor. I'm a journalist and the co-founder of the Jewellery Cut. What we're really going to focus on tonight is the gemstones. We've asked each designer to select a specific gemstone to talk about. So hopefully we're going to introduce you to some interesting facts about those gemstones, but also the inspiration behind how they've been used in different jewellery designs. We have Anna Thompson, who's going to be talking about diamonds, Clift about watermelon and tourmaline. Aishleen Lester of Leicester is going to be put on the spot for a few gems, as we've asked her to speak about her work with pink gems. So it's going to be Morganite, pink sapphires, and pink tourmaline. Akansha Sethi will be speaking to us about her love of Lapis Lazuli, while Roseanna Croft will speak about blue sapphire. And hopefully we can also throw in a question or two about aquamarine. She's got a lovely piece with an aquamarine as well. And our final jeweler of the night will be Phillips, who's going to talk about tourmaline, different shades of tourmaline. And she's got some really beautiful examples of that she's going to share with us as well. So first up, if I could just welcome Anna Thompson to join us. Anna is a designer who's known for creating sculptural fine jewels that blend design, science, and technology. And her creations are both elegant and arresting. Often in her work, you will find that classic combination of gold and diamonds, which is why we've asked her tonight to speak to us about diamonds, which need little introduction. So mined across the world, most predominantly in Africa, Canada, Russia, and Australia. Diamonds are made from pure carbon, formed under high pressure and high temperatures more than 1 billion years ago, deep within the Earth's mantle. So Anna, what is it? I mean, we all know diamonds, but what is it that you love about diamonds?
I love the timeless and captivating way that they bounce the light, and that ephemeral presence of the light on them as well. So that's one of the elements that I really like about the diamonds. Because we have,
there's lots of coloured gemstones in a beautiful sort of variety of shades, but nothing really quite captures that sparkle like diamonds, does it? And I suppose, do you think that's why it's such a popular stone in jewellery?
Yeah, it's also one of the stones that take a lot of time to come from Earth as well, if scientifically talking. They need a lot of pressure, and they also very kind of strong, but also very delicate. That's also a very nice
what do you mean by that, strong and delicate?
So the strength of the diamond is the diamond has one of the highest strengths in minerals, and also, but the way they catch the light and the way they appear in a piece looks quite delicate. So this combination, the strength, and this has been also an inspiration for me in my work. So the juxtapositions of strength and delicacy. So this also combined on the diamond. So
when you first started designing, did you go straight for diamonds? Was that sort of something you wanted to do straight away?
No, actually, I just my first pieces were just pure metal. So I started with silver, then I went into gold, and recently I have added diamonds and pearls as well into my work.
And so this ring that we're looking at now, so that's kind of, I suppose we would call that sort of a modern twist on a solitaire. Could you tell us a little bit about the story behind this ring?
So yeah, this one is a very unique setting. The chunk is also, I got it here.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's a twisted chunk, but very unique setting. So the idea of the setting is like, goes around the diamond and elevate the diamond, encapsulating it, but leaving the light go through into both sides, so it kind of sparkle really, really nicely. But the symmetry and asymmetric way that the piece is have is the sort of combination that I wanted to have, kind of a balance between the symmetry and asymmetric way to wear it.
And was that, I mean, is that quite a hard thing to do? Because I mean, obviously, as a solitaire diamond ring is one of those absolute classic pieces of jewelry. You know, if you asked a kid to draw a ring, they're going to draw a diamond solitaire. I mean, how do you go about sort of reinventing something that has been such a cornerstone of jewelry for a long time?
Yeah, that's true. The solitaire is one of the minimalistic thing. So the idea for me was give that twist into, and keeping the twist into something, as you see, it's kind of a twist, but it's also when it's at the front, it looks just very symmetric. So the idea of movement, dynamic movement into my work is very appealing. So this is the two things that I keep in mind on the setting.
And when we think of diamonds, we think of the 4 C's. So we've kind of got cut, clarity, color, and carat. And how important is that still, do you feel, to somebody who wants a piece of contemporary jewelry? Do you feel that's at the top of their mind when they're buying a diamond ring from you rather than, you know, a standard solitaire? Or do they care less about it?
I think it's important to have a very unique diamonds in terms of the 4 C's. But in my design, I intend to put a lot into the piece in terms of the form and the shape and how this bounce the light into the diamond. So even this one is a 0.4,
yeah,
0.45 carat. So it looks a little bit more bigger, I guess. So
yeah,
the light bounce better in this. So it's more about how it's set and how the whole piece is done in my work more than the diamond itself.
And in this ring, I mean, the diamond is very much the star of the show, but if we can maybe click on to the second design that you're going to share with us, so the Vortex Ring, so a completely different style of ring this time, which also uses diamonds, but in a very different way. You've got the diamonds just edging along here. I mean, what does that bring to this ring?
So this is one of my iconic pieces, and is this sort of combination between a bold and fine. So the piece itself is very, very bold, but it has these finer details that captivate the piece. So the micro pave is another way I use the diamonds. It's just kind of a kind of slightly elegant and feminine way to use it in a very bold piece. So that's why I use this kind of setting on this piece.
Do you think do we just love a bit of sparkle in jewelry?
Yes.
That sparkle where we can get it.
Yeah.
And do you the diamonds that you've chosen for your Vortex ring have been ethically sourced, which is hugely important when it comes to diamonds. We also now have the introduction of laboratory grown diamonds as well as an alternative. Do you have any particular thoughts, kind of like one way or the other, or do you think your customers have any preference between natural mined diamonds and laboratory grown diamonds?
I think both are very unique. Sort of one is kind of is being done by a lot of research to get into what the properties of that diamond can be made on the lab. So it has a very good definition, and I think it has very good strength. Why the natural diamonds is a gift from the earth. So both of them, I think, has very good points that you can highlight into the customer. So if you're very interested in science or in something that it has been created by us, taking those elements from nature is very an interesting element to discuss with the client. Or if they prefer more natural and comes from a gift from earth, is also beautiful as well. So I think both ends are very interesting.
Yeah, room for kind of both, depending on
yes.
What it is. But definitely, as they like to say, diamonds are forever, we would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Sparkle. Anna, thank you so much. It's been really great to look at your designs and hear a little bit more about your work with diamonds.
Oh, thank you so much.
Next up, I would really love to welcome Carol Clift, who is a designer with 3 decades of experience, especially in limited runs and one-off bespoke creation. She splits her time between Barnwell and London. Carol's chosen one of my favourite gemstones, the watermelon tourmaline, which is mined in warm spots like Brazil, Nigeria, Madagascar, Afghanistan, and also in Maine in the US. As the name suggests, this special variety of bicoloured tourmaline is split in colour between pink and green, as is the fruit it's named after. The colourings of all gemstones are influenced by the elements in the ground where they form. As the watermelon tourmaline crystal formed and grew, it was exposed to different minerals, such as manganese and lithium, which caused different colours to develop. Carol, welcome.
Hello.
Tonight. Beautiful. Is this could you, before we get into the gem, this is a sculpture, right?
Yeah, it is. It's actually a sculpture that is a pendant sculpture. So at the bottom, you can't see it, but at the very bottom of the sculpture, there's a loop hidden. It sits within a block, and you can actually lift it out, and you can actually I can actually turn it into a pendant as well, so it can be worn. But at the moment, it's sitting as a sculpture.
It's kind of nice to have both, isn't it? Sort of a piece of jewellery that can be art when not on the body, but yeah, still sort of functional, can be worn as well.
Well, it is, yes, because especially these beautiful stones, and thank you for your introduction on the watermelon tourmaline, that was wonderful. And you want to hold, sometimes you want to hold these pieces because they're not only intrinsically beautiful, but they carry their own lovely energy. So there's very much that sense in which you actually want to touch it and hold it and feel its sense as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, why watermelon tourmaline? I mean, imagine you could have set any kind of beautiful gemstone into this design. Why did you choose this one?
I mean, it's a great question, but how could you not be in love with it? When I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you. I have to have you, and I have to work with you, because what you've got in there is, as you explained, a myriad of colours. You've got really rainbow colours, and I have a lovely affinity with the sense of light and trying to get light into my work. So these colours are so intrinsically beautiful. You've got the pinks and the yellows and the greens and the blues, literally rainbow running through. And also within the watermelon tourmaline, you get quite a lot of inclusions in some of the stones. So you've got the general sort of array of beautiful colours, and then when you sort of move it back and forth within the light, you've also got little rainbows that dance around like tiny little versions of the bigger versions, but within the stone itself. So each time you look, it's like a beautiful painting or beautiful music. Each time you look at the stone, you can see different things, and it kind of draws you in. You want to dive in there and kind of swim around and fall in love with it. Bit of a love affair.
Definitely, such a beautiful description. I think for me, the first time I saw watermelon tourmaline, what I really liked about it is that it almost just hit home. You could kind of almost see it forming in the ground just by having that really visible split between the colours. It was just I don't know, say we have like a really perfect, I don't know, blue sapphire or something, you know, it looks perfect, but to have this and to really be able to see the journey through time, I think is quite exciting. Do customers feel the same? Do people who buy these jewels feel the same?
Yeah, I think it's again a beautiful description that you mentioned there, and you're right. As soon as you see the watermelon tourmaline, it brings you straight back to earth, doesn't it? It brings you back in touch with walking through the woodlands, and I think you're right. I think everybody feels that. The clients feel that. I certainly feel that. We communicate that when we work with the stone, and again, it's a great time of year for the watermelon tourmaline because it's very autumnal. It's got these beautiful kind of rich, sort of orangey, browny, golden colours that fall within the stone as well. And yeah, I think it's a very grounding stone. It roots you. I mean, it's a heart stone as well. It's actually known as the gateway to the inner self. So it's actually got great affiliations with grounding and the heart, and yeah, being in nature, and it takes you straight back to that place. You can feel it and touch it and wear it and feel like you're kind of you might be in the middle of London, but you can feel like you're zoomed back into the countryside or sitting by your favourite river or somewhere just by kind of holding it and touching it on your finger. So it's really special in that way.
This is a hard-working gem. It's a piece of art. It's a piece of jewellery. It's, grounding as well. Does that have anything to do with the name? So it's called What Are You Looking For?
Within the sculpture, yes. The inspiration behind that is really to take you back to your still sense. So it actually came to me in a flash, in a dream, this sculpture, which is kind of a bit hilarious. But so you've got the silver, you've got almost this kind of chaotic silver around, and then in the stillness of the centre, you've got this beautiful watermelon tourmaline in a recycled gold setting, which is, okay, we have all this chaos in our lives, but actually when we stop and we're still and we sit in nature, we can come back to that inner balance. We can find our peace. We can find our breath. So the question of what are you looking for really is to each and every person, is where do you find your solace? Where do you find your still center, your love, your peace? And it's trying to communicate that, bringing us back to a still center, I suppose.
And maybe we can look at the next design, which also has a watermelon tourmaline, which looks completely different again, I think. Is each stone unique when you're picking watermelon?
Yeah, they are, and that's again the beauty of these. These are actually slices of watermelon tourmaline, so it's a little bit different from the full faceted stone. So they're quite interesting to work with because the light actually does go all the way through. Normally you get a lot of reflection coming back. The light will go in, as you know, and the facets are cut and it'll bounce. You'll get some lights bouncing out. But these slices of watermelon tourmaline, the light actually just goes all the way through, which is wonderful in one way because you're getting a full array of light and colour. But you have to set it quite carefully because, and in this ring, there's lots of holes. So it's got over 30 holes pierced in the back of the setting to allow the light from the back as well as the front to give the full colour and bring the full beauty of the colour out within the stone.
Is that what we can see sort of in the image? It almost looks like little circles are on the gemstone. Is that the reverse of the setting?
It is, yeah, it is. They're little pools of light, literally, as the light enters into the stone, and the light coming from the back. You see these little, you see the light absolutely through. So you have to work quite hard with the inside of the setting as well. You have to think, how am I going to set this stone, and what will the inside of the setting look like? Because you actually see that, you can actually see through through the stone. Yeah,
you've got to work extra hard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I noticed with both, you've set them in, so this is rose gold and it was yellow gold in the sculpture. I mean, is it a stone that works best in warmer colours?
I think so, yes. And again, the rose gold, very autumnal in a way, that lovely kind of warmth with the kind of copper colours, reflecting those copper colours within the leaves and things, just I think really just sets it off beautifully. It's actually got 3 little diamonds across the top of the setting as well, which are the primary colours, red, yellow and blue. And this really, again, complements. You can actually put little other colours with the tourmaline, this particular tourmaline, because again it dances and plays with anything that you want to do with it. It's a very easy stone to work with in terms of colour, and it's just, I don't know, it just has its own little delight and joy, and I absolutely love working with it. You can probably tell.
Do you think it's something, is it a gemstone that you'll continue to work with in the future, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, this is part of a new collection I'm launching. So the sculpture was kind of the start of it. And then I've got, in next year, I'll be launching lots more rings, which gather in this tourmaline as part of a new collection that I'm working on, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be the go-to if we all want some watermelon tourmaline then.
I'm your girl. I'm definitely your girl.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your passion for this quite unusual gem. It's been lovely to give it a bit of spotlight.
Oh, wonderful. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh,
That's lovely. Thank you.
Next up, we have, we're going to go from one pinkish gemstone to some more pink gemstones. We've got Aishleen Lester, who has a jewelry brand called Lister. A one-time sculptor, Aishleen is dedicated to creating modern talismans that will become future heirlooms. At the Jewellery Cut, we are such big fans of Lister that we actually awarded Aishleen a bursary to take part in our live event in February this year. If anybody can remember what live events were, hopefully we'll get back to that soon. So Aishleen, good evening to you.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm enjoying it, actually listening to everybody else speak. Now it's my turn.
I think this is, as I mentioned at the start, we sort of did part one of this discussion, which was slightly different, but it's fascinating to kind of just, I don't know, listen to lots of people's experiences on a similar topic. So I think tonight's going to be really fun. But we're kind of burdening you with a few gemstones to talk about this evening. So we've got Morganite, which is, I think we should definitely talk about this first, because you've got this ring which has quite a big cut of Morganite, doesn't it, at the top?
Yeah, and the beauty of Morganite is that actually you can get it in bigger sizes without the price of it absolutely rocketing. And because it's a pale stone, it also means that when it's large, it doesn't lose all of its colour. So it's like a really good stone to work with when you want to design a piece that takes on a larger size. And when I was designing this, I wanted something that looked kind of quite plain from the front, but then at the back, that was where all the details were. And so that when you took it off, it was like an element of surprise, and that somebody would really enjoy just looking at it when it was just on their like dressing table, just before they're about to put it on. And it was kind of like a little bit of a surprise for them when they wear it. And I kind of think of that as like almost been like a sort of confidence, I suppose. It's not something that you always see from the outside, but you know internally it's there. And I think that for me was that kind of metaphor for designing this piece. And you can't see it from that photograph, but I chose a Morganite, but an optics cut Morganite. I'm going to try this, and I don't know whether it's going to work, but I don't know if you can see in the light. You can almost see like a firework explosion. So this, I don't know if you get that, but when you see it in normal daylight, you definitely can. And it's optics cut, which means that it's all faceted from the back. And it means that there's an internal light, so that when you actually look at the stone, it feels like a firework that's kind of dancing in the sky. And that was the starting off point for this collection, which is called Light the Grey, which was looking at the way that light travels through the air. And all the pieces from the collection are named after fireworks. So this Kamaru is actually a Japanese kind of explosion of light. It's almost like hair kind of coming out like this in cartoon style, and that's the name of the piece.
Sentiment. I really love this as sort of a method of design when you can't see everything straight away. I just love that sentiment that actually that's for you. It's not for people looking outside. You know, it's not done to show off. It doesn't have that ostentatious nature. It's just, why shouldn't you celebrate yourself and have something beautiful that kind of you only know about? And Morganite, we've sort of spoken that different gems, you know, they pick up their colors from their surroundings they're made. And Morganite is really, it's kind of prized for its sort of soft, called like a salmon color, kind of this really sort of light pink color. And it's Morganite's a type of beryl, and it gets its color from traces of manganese. And it's been a really popular gemstone in recent years. It feels like it's had a bit of a resurgence. What do you think it is? What do you think it is about that soft kind of pinky blush shades that people really like?
I mean, I think it goes so well against the skin, and that sort of kind of very soft. It's really feminine. It's again quite understated as a colour, and I think you can see that through like Pantone, like what the most popular colours are, and there's a real fashion towards that at the moment. And I think coloured stones are like having like a bit of a renaissance period. Like you've got the royals wearing, I don't know, pink sapphires, and I think that people historically have probably gone for diamonds, but they're realizing actually there is room also to think about introducing color. And I think for me, Morganite's great because it's got a beautiful quality of light, but it's got a color, but it's not ostentatious, and there's a gentleness about it, like a subtlety about it, that as a designer I'm just really drawn to.
We can tell if we can flick through to your earrings next. I mean,
less subtle.
Continue. Which I absolutely love these earrings. These have been some of my favorites that I've seen sort of in recent years. I just there's something really beautiful about them, and particularly I think it's the color that draws me to these. Could you tell us a little bit about the pink gemstones that you've used here?
Yeah, so this is so the one you can see four pairs, and that's pink sapphires, and then the two at the bottom are pink tourmalines, and
pink shades.
And the reason, yeah, I'm really drawn to like impressionist sort of painting, and I think there's a sort of liveliness when you put like two shades of the same color together, and because pink sapphires and pink tourmalines, each stone is a little bit different. They don't have their own grading system. Like one looks a little bit different from the other. And I think for me, that gives a sort of like the piece of sort of liveliness. And choosing the stones is then something that I actually really enjoy.
And do you have to explain these pink gemstones, whether it's a sapphire, tourmaline or morganite, do you have to explain them to clients when they come to see? Or do they know straight away what these gems are?
That's a really good question. Yeah, it depends. I think the people that I would say that are probably more used to buying, I don't know, diamond jewels may not know so much about it, but I think that there is definitely an audience. You get people that absolutely love coloured stones and that's their thing, and they know everything about it, and they know more than I know about it. And then you've got another sort of audience that is kind of drawn to it, but maybe a little bit more hesitant, doesn't know quite so much about it, and they're probably more familiar with a blue sapphire. That would be the colour that comes to their mind rather than a pink sapphire. But I think once you explain to them and it's actually made up of the same thing, it's just the different elements it's come in contact with, I think they feel okay about investing in it, because again it's a hard stone. It's going to, it's treat it well, it's going to last, and I think that's really important when somebody chooses to invest in a piece.
And with pink stones, I am all over pink gemstones. I love them, but do some people, do they find it a bit saccharine? Is it a little bit too girly for some people?
Yeah, like personally, I feel like you can't get enough pink, but I realise that's probably just my idea. And obviously, I can make pieces with any sort of colour combination, and yeah, everybody's got their own sort of colour they're attracted to, and I think that's really important to be able to work with someone else's brief, because actually at the end of the day, when somebody puts on a piece, they want to make it like they want to feel right in it. They want to feel like they've got the right colours. It's going to go with the right dress that that they're going to be wearing, and people's colour palettes. It is personal, and I think that's why it's really important that everybody here, I'd say, has the opportunity of customizing a piece and making something that's really specific to the wearer.
Now that strange minority aside who don't like pink gems,
I know.
we're going to forget about them for now. But do you think that our kind of love for pink gemstones and the real kind of popularity they have at the moment, do you think that's going to continue into next year?
I think it is. I think there's more and more been written up about them. I think you probably know this better, Rachel, but it's like the largest pink diamond went for goodness knows how much, and the popularity that these stones get in the press, actually I think subconsciously, it makes people feel much more willing to invest in coloured stones. It's
I think
kind of been advertising.
If you don't have the millions to drop on, you know, a pink diamond at Sotheby's, you can instead do some pink sapphires.
Exactly.
Accessible price. Actually, thank you so much for talking us through pink gemstones, all of them. It's been, yeah, a real delight. And hopefully we'll see some more pink gems coming from you soon. So next tonight, we've got actually another favourite of the Jewellery Cut. We've got Akansha Sethi who's going to join us. Akansha's taken part in every single edition of the Jewellery Cut Live that we've ever done, which, Akansha, I'm not sure what we're on. Have you done 4 now? Is that how many it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 or... Yeah, I've done all of them. Yeah, 4.
Hopefully, yeah, 5th will be soon. Akansha's got a real reputation for drawing the crowds at these shows, actually, with her colourful jewellery. Akansha's jewels, what I really love about them is that they're very contemporary, but they're also anchored by her Indian heritage. They use ancient techniques such as enamelling and gemstone carving to really striking effect. There was one stone that really leapt out of Akansha's cabinet at the most recent Jewellery Cut Live due to its veracity of colour, and that is Lapis Lazuli, which is the blue stone that you can see in these earrings. It's an aggregate of several minerals such as lazulite, calcite and pyrite, the latter, which is actually what creates those beautiful flecks of gold that pepper that really beautiful royal blue colour. Akansha, what first drew you to lapis as a stone to work with?
So with me, when designing any of the collections, it's kind of focusing on my source of inspiration and then picking the stones according to fit that brief for me. So for example, with this collection, that was inspired by the Jardin Majorelle. So when I first went there, there were 3 colors which stood out for me the most, which was blue, yellow, and green. So you have this beautiful green garden, and then when you carry on walking through it, there's this like really big, bold blue building. And the second I saw it, I just knew that that is Lapis Lazuli for me. Like that is the stone. It has the same sheen, it has the same softness, it has the same bold feeling to it. And I think that's how I was drawn to that stone specifically. And the other stones kind of emphasized on the deep blue tone of the Lapis Lazuli anyway, and it kind of added to the whole warmth of being there at that space and how it felt through the different textures. So you've got the cacti all around the garden, which had that prickly feeling, and then you've got this smooth blue building in the middle of it. So which is why there's that specific carving on them too.
And this is in the garden that we're talking about is in Marrakesh, isn't it? Is that?
Yeah.
So was it Yves Saint Laurent who created this garden?
Yeah. So that's why the colors are very much, they're known as the Yves Saint Laurent colors. So you've got the blue, the green, and the yellows all put together. So I think, yeah, that was one main element which I wanted to capture in these pieces, but keeping blue as the highlight.
Yeah, I visited that garden in 2019, I think, and then as soon as I saw your collection, I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, I can absolutely see the inspiration. It's amazing actually the sort of similarity between the colours in the garden and the colour in the pieces. And with this lapis lazuli that you have in these earrings, so these are detachable studs, is that right?
Yeah, so I think what I've realized with my pieces, obviously color is a really important factor with all of them. And even though everyone is drawn to the bright colors, I think for some people it's quite nice to have the option of maybe making them smaller during the day or having that facility to be able to change them according to different looks, which is why there's that detachable stud. So even in this collection, there are another 3 different types of drops. So again, playing with the same color palette, but having a different feel. So having more enamel on some of them, having more carved stones, and mixing it up that way.
So we've got if everyone's looking at the slide, so we've got the blue, the sort of royal blue at the top, which is the lapis, and then we've got the enamel is the red parts, and then we've got citrine at the bottom. And then if we could go to the next slide, this is where you don't hold back, Akansha. This is this is a serious piece. So this is the choker, isn't it?
Yeah, so this was the statement choker. We wanted one big piece, which is part of pretty much every collection. There's always that one big piece, which is my hero piece, I suppose. Where this one basically, it uses, I think, Lapis Lazuli as I would have really imagined it to be. It has the different carvings to show the columns, the floral patterns to show the different flowers spotted around the garden as well, using emeralds to show the different trees and the different branches around. And yeah, really playing with color the way I felt like when I was there, sketching it out and realizing that those are the parts that stood out for me the most, and putting that together in this one piece.
And this, to me, this really sort of shows off the beauty of your work, because you can see the color, you can see the enamel, you can see the carving, and here we've got two, as you mentioned, two different styles of carving with the lapis lazuli. How easy as a gemstone, because we know gemstones have different hardnesses and some are easier to work with than others. I mean, how easy is it to carve a piece of lapis?
So it's a lot easier than other stones that I've worked with in collections. It's a lot harder. So it's to get detail on the patterns, you can really, really work into it and create very intricate patterns as well, which is why we'd be using it again in upcoming collections. You can really show like the different gold speckles. So the more you carve into it, you can really get different sparkles coming through. So when you look at it in different lights, even though it's an opaque stone, so it doesn't maybe reflect light as other more translucent stones, but it does that in the way the little gold sparkles are spotted around the stone, which makes each one, I guess, more special as well.
It's kind of, as we were saying with Anna earlier, kind of that we're all just drawn to that sparkling jewelry, kind of whatever way we can get it. And I've loved like the gold sparkle in lapis, because I just feel like it's almost like an extra, I don't know, like discovering a treasure, isn't it, when it's just kind of got that little extra piece underneath. And how do your clients, your customers, what is it, we know why you're drawn to it as a designer, but what is it about this stone that attracts them?
I think with people, especially when it comes to brightly coloured stones, I think with lapis, what I've realised is that it's kind of like an entry point for people to be comfortable with getting into bright coloured stones, where it is bright, it is visible, it is bold, but it isn't maybe too difficult to also accessorize with your looks. It's something that goes with everything. It's a stone which can also complement other stones that people wear. So even if you're stacking them or you're wearing it through even summer or winter, it's something very, very fluid throughout the year, which I think has also been really easy for people to maybe relate to in that sense. And I think it's also a stone which everyone is quite aware of. Both lapis and malachite, they're very, very familiar stones when it comes to coloured gemstones.
That's actually a question I was going to ask you, because I think often lapis is presented as a summer stone. It's something, I think we often see it in editorials, sort of in summer shoots, I don't know, with white clothes, and then the bright blue of the lapis, but you actually think it's a stone that can be worn year round?
Well, for me, I mean, that's what I personally, I wear my stones throughout the year, so it's maybe it's a little different for me, but even from people that have that we've even worked on either bespoke or have looked at this collection itself, they've actually been really comfortable in picking it out with jumpers or jackets, because it's something that, again, it's not very, even though it does have a very summery vibe to it, it's not something that's just fixed for that, because it could still go with like a really nice black jumper, because it's subtle but bold in a way. It kind of is like a juxtaposition within itself in the way that it can be styled and worn.
I think that's interesting you say that, because I mean, it is such a strong color, but you're right, actually. It does seem to be some sort of confidence around lapis as a gemstone in general, that it does feel easier to wear than, I don't know, say we did have some other types of gemstones. It's one of those ones, I think, that you have permission to wear quite chunky. There's something about it. And is it a particularly heavy stone, Akansha, if people wanted to wear it in like a format like this in a big choker?
Not really, because of the way that we've designed it. It has like a flexible wire going throughout the back, so it just adds like a nicer support when you're wearing it, so it doesn't feel like it's weighing down, or that it's too fixed, if that makes sense. So it is very comfortable to wear, even though it is quite like, we've used slightly bigger stones throughout the whole piece, but just the way that they're designed, I guess we're just a little bit smarter when we're designing it, that it doesn't feel very heavy. Even in the earrings, we've used lapis as the studs, where you've even got the citrine drop, but it's not weighing it down. Then use different like caps in the other earrings as well, just so that it's not uncomfortable to wear.
So all the color, but not all the weight, which is nice.
Yeah.
Akansha, thank you so much for sharing your stories about lapis. It's beautiful to see, and so nice to see it with the carvings as well. I think that makes it really sort of special. Next up, we're going to have another blue gemstone for you this evening, blue sapphire. And we've asked jewelry designer Roseanna Croft to speak about which is maybe the most traditional of coloured gemstones. Roseanna, who this year opened a boutique in London to complement her Bakewell boutique in the Lake District, specialises in bespoke engagement and wedding rings, as well as redesigns. As such, she often finds herself handling exquisite gemstones such as these blue sapphires. And those sapphires, as we know, can come in a rainbow of hues. It is blue that's considered to be the most regal. And if you feel like I need some sort of backing up to this statement, I would just say, look at Kate Middleton's ring finger and you'll have your answer for that one. A durable corundum, blue sapphires tend to be vivid and saturated with colour, which makes them appear as if they're lit from within. And top of the market examples are cashmere blue sapphires, which are rich, velvety colour, but you'll find a variety of shades within the blue sapphire family, such as this lovely example from Roseanna. Roseanna, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Do you have a particular favourite shade of blue sapphire?
This one right here.
I thought you might say that. Can you tell us a little bit about this gemstone?
So this sapphire, throughout lockdown I started collecting gemstones, and this sapphire was one of them, and I absolutely love it because it's actually a really big stone. It's really heavy. It's something like 5 or 6 carats, and it's got this colourless banding through it, which I think gives it this really pale colour. And if you see the
what do you mean by banding? Could you just...
it's clear throughout the middle of the stone, so it's blue, this pale blue on the outside, and I guess the person who cut it so deep so that we could get the most of the this beautiful sky blue color out of it, but then just running through the middle, mixed in with a few inclusions, there's this just clear space.
Wow. Is that quite unusual?
I think it's really unusual, yes. I would say so. I've not seen it before, and I guess it would be associated with a stone that's not as of a higher quality as the stone in Kate Middleton's ring, but I just think it's absolutely magical. It's one of those perfectly imperfect things that I absolutely love about coloured gems.
I think that's, especially in coloured gemstones, I think in the last few years we've seen a real sort of renewed appreciation for coloured gemstones outside of that traditional trio of ruby, sapphire, emerald. And I think that also extends to sort of within that trio. Blue sapphires don't, as we kind of mentioned, cashmere sapphires are, you know, kind of the top of the end, but they're not the be all and end all. It's like, I think we've come to accept that beauty can be found in alternatives. Is that something that your clients feel, do you think?
Yes, definitely. I think for my clients, it's not because what I do is that I focus on redesign and the bespoke, as you've mentioned, and for them, it's not always about having the most perfect stone. It's about what speaks to them. It's about the story that's behind it. So for this stone, for example, I've set it in a lotus flower, which you can't see, but I mean, for me, the sapphire is the star. So it's set in a lotus flower, but it means change and enlightenment, and the sapphire with the perfectly imperfect patterns throughout it, I think fits in really well with that, and it just ties in with the story, and that's what I love, and I think that's what my clients look for as well.
And with this particular ring, you found this gemstone first and then presented it to the client, or they found it and came to you?
Yeah, so I was going to sell it and then I decided to keep it.
Oh, wait, so this is your ring? This
is my ring. I wear it every day. So this is for getting through lockdown.
I think we all need a nice bit of jewellery to congratulate everyone who's put up with this year. What a good thing to do. I'm glad that you kept it. And is it the first sort of personal, is it the first blue sapphire that you've owned personally?
Yes. No, not true. I actually have another sapphire, the same colour, but it's a which I bought. It was one of the last things. I was a goldsmith in Australia. It was one of the last stones that I bought over there. And do you know what? I don't wear it as much as I should, but it's a similar colour to this.
Brilliant. And if we can click on to the next slide, we've got another. We've got a bridal set here, which. So is this is it the blue sapphire is in the bottom ring, so the wedding ring, and then the aquamarine is in the engagement ring, is that right?
Yes.
I mean, this is quite an unusual combination for a bridal set.
Very unusual. So with the engagement ring was redesigned from a family heirloom that my client had. So he had a really chunky aquamarine and diamond ring, and his girlfriend, now wife actually, is obviously from the rings. She's from Hong Kong, so he wanted something much more delicate and pretty, and something that kind of reflected her and their relationship. So he definitely wanted to keep the aquamarine, despite it being a softer stone and not something that's typically worn in an engagement ring, because of the ties to his family. And what we did was we included, or the pattern on the side next to the diamonds is a filigree design that I've incorporated the lotus flower into it, because it's part of their story. She's from Hong Kong, and it just ties in really nicely. And so, yeah, even though the aquamarine is a bit softer, they wanted to keep it. And then when it came to the wedding ring, we had so much fun trying to find the perfect stones to complement the aquamarine.
And what was the it's so unusual to see. I mean, I think we've very much got used to the idea of coloured engagement rings, but to see a wedding band with gemstones in it is quite unusual, I think. What was it about the correlation between the aquamarine and the blue sapphires that made you think that would be a perfect fit? It's
the colours for me. It really just the contrast of the different shades. It's just so eye-catching. And again, it's her. She loves blue. It's the different shades of blue. I think, you know, all of her jewellery is blue, and it's just adds. She can wear it with whatever. If she's wearing some aquamarine earrings, you've got the engagement ring. If she's got a bigger sapphire necklace on, it kind of matches. So I think the colours were what were really important, but also because we designed this from scratch and it wasn't a redesign, I wanted to make sure that we used harder stones, so that they would, I guess, last the test of time. With it being in a wedding ring and worn every day.
I think that's an important consideration when you're buying sort of bridal jewellery, to think about sort of stone's durability. But actually, I mean, aquamarine, just to get really geeky about gemstones again. So it's a beryl which is mined at high altitudes, such as in Pakistan's Karakoram mountains. But it's also, because it's a very calming stone, I would imagine due to the colour, there's always lovely myths and legends around gemstones. And aquamarine, it's said, it's not only to keep sailors safe when they're at sea, but also to keep marriages afloat. Apparently it's got a calming effect on the couple. So actually, despite it being a softer stone, it might be quite a good choice for
That's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. I knew about the about keeping sailors safe, and I think it's got a tie to mermaids, hasn't it? Yeah, so I knew that, but I didn't know about keeping marriages afloat. I'm going to have to put that one down in the notebook.
Yeah, for the next time you have somebody who comes along with an aquamarine engagement ring. And one final question for you, Roseanna. I know we've kind of mentioned the sort of famous Kate Middleton, Princess Diana ring. Do you think that is still having an effect, kind of like all these years later, on engagement ring choices?
Most definitely. It is. I mean, it's my favourite ring ever, because of the history, because of the legacy that's behind it. And I think that style, just the antique daisy style itself, is really popular. People are going back to a vintage style now, I'm seeing, and have been for the last few years. But interestingly, especially with the crown, now. And I actually watched the episode the other day where Diana chose her engagement ring, but that's actually not the story, I believe, of how she came to have that. But I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to the royal jewelry. But I think with the crown, it's kind of reignited people's love for this ring. I think so. I think it's a style that will always come in and out of fashion.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, sort of having reported on it in the past. There was this huge boom of that style in the 80s when Diana had the ring, and then again when we had Kate Middleton, there was suddenly that huge boom around sales of similar rings. And then, as you say, now that we're all kind of obsessing over the crown, which has to be pointed out is a fictional
Yeah, I know.
royal story. We'll probably, I would imagine, again see that sort of interest go up. Well, thank you, Roseanna, that was really, really fascinating, and thank you for sharing your beautiful blue designs with us. Our final designer tonight is Karen Phillips, who's an award-winning jeweller who has been delighting the jewellery world for more than 20 years with her luxurious gold and gemstone designs. Referring to her work as disorganised elegance, which I have to say is a brilliant turn of phrase, she is known for her rich texture gold that, as we've said already tonight in a favourite jewellery phrase, is perfectly imperfect. Tonight, Karen will be speaking to us about Tourmaline, a gem that we've already spoken about this evening, and we've heard that it comes in a variety of hues. And to go back to being geeky again about gemstones, my favourite fact about Tourmaline is that it's pyroelectric, which means that when it's heated, it becomes electrically charged. Also, apparently, if you squeeze it, that has the same effect. Karen, good evening, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. This ring that we have up on the screen here has a tourmaline that is in a very unusual shade of grey. How did you first come to discover this stone?
I went to where I source my stones from. I got a couple of places I source my stones from, and this stone was just staring out at me, and I'd never seen a grey tourmaline before, and it was so unusual. In fact, I'd never seen a stone in that colour apart from the greyer diamonds. And I actually bought two of them, so that's one of them. And I just love that colour. I have a cat that colour, I have a dog that colour, and I fell in love with it and knew that I had to have it. And I really like the way that I love that combination of gold and grey in general, and so I knew I had to set it in the yellow gold, and it just called to me. I'm afraid it just really did.
I find that shade really fascinating. I was doing an interview with Stephen Webster a while back, and I remember at the time he said to me, he was like, grey gemstones, that's the thing. I think he'd just come back from Tucson. At the time I was like, oh, okay. And then I started looking more into it, and then I just started seeing grey gemstones everywhere. And yeah, you're right. I think it's kind of, we wouldn't, maybe when we're imagining what jewellery we would like, or say if we were going to commission something, I don't really think grey would be top of the colour list, but it's absolutely beautiful when you see it.
Sorry, it's a neutral, isn't it? So, and I think just like wearing a diamond, it goes with everything. A grey stone goes with everything, especially, the way all our colours are at the moment with our clothing. I think it's just very, very easy to wear.
And with this stone, so it's a pear shape and it's nicely faceted. What does that bring to the colour?
Sorry, could you say that again, please?
The cutting of the stone, so we've got it as a pear shape. Does the faceting of this particular stone, does it bring like extra depth or extra light to the colour?
It's a brilliant cut. It's a normal pear-shaped brilliant cut. I don't think it has a specific cut like Aishleen's one that had all the lines going in. This is a very, very regular pear-shaped cut. But I just really like the way it moved and reflected, and hence all these sort of lines of the piece that worked really with it. It actually, when you see it, and all gemstones, when you move them around, have so much life. And this one it's lovely. It's just very, very special.
And because you work quite a lot with tourmalines in different colours, what do customers think of this? Do you have to explain what a tourmaline is when they?
Tourmaline is an absolutely fabulous stone, and it's great for jewellers. It's a 7.5 on the Mohs scale of hardness, which is just under ruby and sapphire, and obviously diamond being the hardest. So it's still good for rings. which is great because if you get something softer, then it can be a hazard to wear a lot. So you can wear a tourmaline every single day, which is fantastic. Tourmalines also come in every single colour. I mean, ancient civilizations used to say they travelled along the rainbow, picking up all the colours as they went, because they do come in every single colour you can find. There's a grey one, and in fact, actually got some little pictures here. There's a red, a rubellite tourmaline you can get. And this is the Paribas blue, the bright blue ones. And as you've seen, the watermelon tourmalines, they're absolutely beautiful. And all of the tourmalines have a real grey tone to their colour palette. So I just think they're so sophisticated. It's such a sophisticated colour. And whichever colour you choose, it has a real grey undertone. So it's not like a pillar box red or a bright, paint box colour. It's just a muted tone. And so I think whatever colour tourmaline you go with, they're just so sophisticated. And my clients agree, luckily. So, they're lovely. There's such a range for everybody, but they're lovely as well.
I think that's a really beautiful way to knit them all together as well, that kind of idea that they do have that undertone, because they're so, like, as you say, you showed us the, I think it was a chopard necklace, wasn't it, that Rihanna wears, that's got that kind of like juicy red colour. Yeah. And the Paribas tourmaline, which is the one that everyone's absolutely gone nuts for over the last few years, it's got that kind of neon colour, but it's nice to knit them through. If we could move on to the next slide, we'll see another example of a tourmaline that you've used. Can you tell us a little bit about this stone and this design?
Well, this design actually was a bespoke commission, and I sourced this stone with the client, and she knew that she wanted a green stone, and I went and looked and found various green stones, and this, again, this was just the one. There really was no two ways about it. The depth of the colour in it is beautiful. The bounce back from the light is absolutely wonderful. And I was very lucky that she wanted to set it horizontally as well, because that's what I suggested. And she said, oh, I'd love to do that. And it just looked great. So, I was really excited about this piece, and she's delighted, most importantly. So,
what was it that kind of, you say there was kind of no competition in terms of when you sourced a few different green stones. What was it about this particular one that just made it the winner?
It's just the tone. I mean, they say that no two tourmalines are the same, that you can't actually get two tourmalines that are exactly the same colour. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't actually know. But I think I got 6 different ones that we put together, slightly different shapes, and but not that much difference. But it was just all of the tones were different. So some of them had a more lime in them, some of them had a more olive in them, and we just literally laid them on her hands. And again, jewelry is really, really personal, and exactly as Aishleen said about colours being very personal to skin tone. And this green just fitted her hand. It just looked right. It looked right with her eyes, it looked right with her hair, and we just knew it was right. We put the other ones on, it didn't quite work. So it wasn't a hard decision. It sounds like a hard decision, but actually when you're sitting there and they're in front of you, it wasn't at all.
No, and I mean, obviously, kind of like the go-to green gemstone that we would normally think of is emerald. And in the 16th century, when tourmalines were discovered in Brazil by a Spanish conquistador, Francisco Espinosa, they actually were mistaken for emeralds. But I would imagine that, if you wanted to get an emerald, maybe with that kind of depth of color and in that size, that's going to cost you, is that going to cost you a lot more than a tourmaline? Or
tourmalines are not cheap either. But yes, obviously an emerald is more. But the other thing is emeralds are much softer as well. So for everyday use, emeralds are not ideal always. So actually, again, you've got the hardness of the tourmaline, which is great. But you're right, tourmalines have been mistaken over history a long time. I think it's just the Russian state jewelry. They've been thought of as having rubies in the entire time. And actually they've just found out recently that that's all tourmaline as well. So the whole of the Russian royal jewels is made of red tourmaline. And it is one of those stones where you don't quite know enough about it. It's still quite a mysterious stone. And I think that's very appealing.
Yeah, I think that's appealing about all gemstones. It is that kind of mystery. You can't, you don't know how they're going to come out. They've kind of got this real mystery to them, which I think is exciting. Well, Karen, thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you very much.
To find out more about them from somebody who works so much with them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening and go and talk to lots of people about your favourite gemstones. Good evening.
Thank you.
And just a brief thank you, Rachel, for hosting us this evening and all those wonderful insights and questions. So yeah, thank you from us to you and all of the panelists. Have a wonderful evening and do join us again at the Goldsmiths Centre online soon. Good night, everybody.